way to from Kangemi and the rest. And so the situation here is as it is, as you can see on your screens, tear gas is being fired. And police are now turning back motorcycles and any vehicles proceeding from town down to Thika Road, right after the exit of La Mada Hotel. So we'll be standing here just to see the developments and see if there is anything that will pan out. But we understand the numbers are huge. And we also understand that one of our very own, David Gishuru, who's a photographer with the Standard Group, has been hit with a stone, has been pelted with a stone and is slightly injured. And now I'm joined by one protester here. Habari yako?
Mzuri sana.
Give me your name and why you've decided to turn up here today.
Sisi, mimi mtu wa bodaboda nafanya kazi hapa town na mimi sina ubaya wote. Sisi tunabeba tu wale watu ambao ni abiria wetu wa kawaida. Sisi hatuna ubaya, lakini wakati tuko hapa Thika Road tunataka kwenda turudi kwa stage zetu tunambebea. Askari wanatukataza, wanatusukuma, wanatupiga na tear gas na sisi hatuna ubaya kama watu wa bodaboda. Sasa sijui shida iko wapi? Shida iko wapi? Sisi tunabeba tu watu kawaida, tuna ubaya sisi. Unaelewa? So mimi naomba tu askari watuelewe, sisi ni watu wa bodaboda, hatuna ubaya. Lakini wakitaka kutuonyesha kwamba tuko na ubaya, sisi tutawaonyesha pia sisi tuko na ubaya. Hatuna ubaya.
All right. That is one boda rider here. I'm also joined by Brian Wandera, who's also a protester who has come all the way from Eastern Bypass to just tell us what the situation is as they were coming up and what exactly transpired to foresee that the police would fire tear gas.
Mimi naitwa Brian Wandera, mimi ni mkaaji wa Eastern Bypass na kutoka bypass tumekuja na mguu. Tunapofika pale Githurai tunazuiliwa na makarao, wanaanza kutupiga tear gas, wanatupiga marungu. So sisi tunataka kwenda kuandamana town, hao wanakuja wanaleta furugu. Ni maaskari wanaleta furugu, wanatuzuia kutembea, wanatuzuia kila kitu. Sasa tunashindwa tufanye aje?
Well, as you heard it, that is the situation here along Thika Road. There's a safe pair of boots, a number of them actually, police all over the place, Land Cruisers, and they had been firing tear gas, like I said, behind that particular footbridge. But that really is the situation along Thika Road. We'll be keeping our feet on the ground here just to try and see if anything will pan out and whether there will be any violence or any interaction or any altercation between the police and protesters here, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Raymond Muthe there, just giving us an update of what is happening at Thika Superhighway. But just to let you know what is evolving at the moment is that we have seen a letter circulating from the Communication Authority ordering all media houses to cease live broadcasting of the ongoing Maandamano. Of course, while KTN has not yet received its copy of this order, editors from other media houses have confirmed that indeed this is the position. Further information from elsewhere indicate that the Communications Authority has ordered signal carriers to also deflate from any media houses from doing live broadcast. We are consulting our lawyers to establish the legality of this order, which aims to plunge courage into a news blackout. Meanwhile, we will continue broadcasting for you live from the public, in the public interest until the legal position is confirmed. I repeat, we have seen a letter circulating from the Communications Authority ordering all media houses to cease live broadcasting of the ongoing Maandamano, while KTN has not received its copy of this order. Editors from other media houses have confirmed that indeed this is the position. Further information from elsewhere indicates that the Communications Authority has also ordered signal carriers to deflate any media house doing live broadcast. But of course, here at KTN, we are consulting our lawyers to establish the legality of this order, which aims to plunge the country into a news blackout. Meanwhile, we will continue broadcasting for the public interest until a legal position is confirmed. Here on KTN, we will continue broadcasting for you live of this ongoing Maandamano in the country. And now we are going to just show you what is happening just across the country. in regards to the ongoing maandamano that is taking to the streets. As you can see there on your screens, live pictures from Nairobi CBD, as well as live pictures from Thika Road. Earlier on, we had Raymond Muthem, who told us just what is happening at Thika Superhighway, where, of course, the police are trying to contain the numbers that are coming into the CBD by containing that number, just trying not to let more numbers to come into the CBD. Of course, like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, our reporters are stationed across the country. That is Mombasa, Nairobi, Kisumu, Nyeri, Nakuru, just to bring us blow by blow a 360-degree coverage of this ongoing maandamano. As I said earlier, there's a letter circulating from the Communications Authority ordering all media houses to cease live broadcasting of the ongoing maandamano. But of course, KTN, we're yet to receive the orders and will continue broadcasting for you live the ongoing maandamano that is happening across the country. And as we go through that, we are going to be ongoing with a conversation that began this morning of the ongoing maandamano. And with me, I'm joined by two gentlemen. One is Samuel Mboro, my immediate right, who is a youth leader. And farthest from my right is Joseph Kariuki, who is lead communications of the International Justice Mission. Karibuni sana to KTN. And thank you for braving up to come and join us as we commemorate this day. I'm going to start with you, Sam.
Yep.
When you hear about June 25th, what comes to mind?
Thank you so much for having us today. I'm Samuel Mburu, a youth leader from Nyandarua. And once June 25th, Maandamano is mentioned, it clings and brings back fond memories of people we lost, life we lost, people who disappeared, people who are murdered to death. And today, as we commemorate the anniversary, or the Maandamano anniversary, I think the state should allow the people of Kenya, especially the young people and the families who lost their loved ones, to just express their views and say, this should never happen again in Kenya. And I think what we are having today, or what we are having at the moment, is the third liberation movement of Kenya.
All right.
Where you had the first one about the British rule, when we gained independence as a country. And the second one on the one party, when we gained multi-party democracy. So I'm seeing this as a third revolution movement.
All right.
Yep.
Joseph, we have breaking news at the moment, and the government is trying to stop live coverage of the ongoing maandamanos or protests that are going on in the country. Where does that even leave us as a country, having that we are going in, whatever is happening could lead to the country into a blackout?
Yeah, thank you, Grace, and thank you for hosting me from this show. I think it's unfortunate because we need media freedom to continue broadcasting what is happening because I feel that it is good for people to know what is happening in the community and around them, because sometimes it's even the media that allow us to know what is happening, if some places are bad, how to navigate. Like when I was coming today, I had to detour because even it is the media that I was following up to tell me that the road had been blocked. So I think it's unfortunate that we having a media blackout. It reminds me of the media blackouts we used to have a long time ago when during the 2017 elections. I remember when we were in total blackout. And I feel as a journalist myself who has practiced for long, I feel that media should be allowed to broadcast what is happening.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also joined by Zubeida Kanano, who is the president of Editors Guild in the country. Zubeida, that order from the Communications Authority ceasing live broadcast of the ongoing protests in the country, what does that even mean?
It's very unfortunate because we've had this conversation for a long time. We've had cases in court about who is in control of broadcast media. And before I respond to, or let me use the same articles that the Director General of Communication Authority has quoted, in the Constitution to see what exactly it says about broadcast in Kenya. Let's go to Article 34 of the Constitution about the media freedom and rights. Article 1 says, freedom and independence of electronic, print, and all other types of media is guaranteed. He should know that first. Article 2 of the same Constitution, Article 34, says the state shall not exercise control over or interfere with any person engaged in broadcasting, production, and circulation of any publication. That's exactly what they're doing. It says in Article 2B, the state shall not penalize any person for any opinion or view or the content of any broadcast publication or dissemination. 3, broadcasting and the other electronic media have freedom of establishment subject only to the licensing procedures that are necessary to regulate the airwaves and other forms of signal distribution, and the independence and control are independent. All broadcasting and electronic media are independent of control by government, political, or commercial interests. That is Article 34 of the Constitution. What does the Article 35 that he made reference to say about the rights to information? Article 35 of the Constitution says every citizen has the right of access to information held by the state and information held by any other person that is required for the exercise or protection of any right or fundamental freedom. You know, that is what the Constitution is clear about the rights and freedoms of broadcast media and any form of publication, you know. So what I see, what I read in this is interference. They're trying to control media, and that's what they've done, not once, not twice. You remember there's a time they issued directives to shut down media. And we have a case in court, and we succeeded in one, where the government tried to control media through advertising, where they say that if you publish a certain article, if you broadcast certain stories, we are going to deny or withdraw advertising from the media. That is not how we're supposed to run a country. The other day, the report that was released indicated that Kenya is, I think, number 117 in the Media Freedom Index out of 180. It doesn't put us in a good picture as a country. Why can't they let media exercise their duty and mandate to inform Kenyans on what is going on? Nganga, if today you left this office and went and something happened to you out there, who would you blame? But if you got that information from the media to know which route to take, what to do, how to protect yourself at a time like this, you know, that is the responsibility that we've been given as media. So the government shouldn't, and the Constitution is very clear, Article 34 and 35, the state should not interfere with the work of the media. And you remember there's a case that was filed in court about who has the mandate to regulate the media. Is it Communication Authority or is it Media Council of Kenya? Because the mandate of the Communication Authority is to issue frequencies, you know, and not to control what goes on TV, on radio, on digital platforms, and so on. So long as the information that the media is releasing out there is accurate, verified, and safe for public consumption, I don't see any violation of the Constitution from what media has been doing since Morning Grace.
See, still on news, Zubeida, because now they're saying that the ongoing coverage of the ongoing Maandamano is against the law. This is not the first time that media houses have actually covered protests, not just alone Gen Zs, but protests in general. One may ask, when they talk about it is against the law, which law specific are we talking about?
And that's exactly what has taken us back to the Constitution, because we are guided by the law. As media, we are guided by the law. We know what is right and what is not, and that's why we have the Code of Conduct that gives us the mandate to broadcast, yes, but we have to be very careful about what we put out there so that we don't risk other people's rights. Which right have we violated by informing Kenyans on what is going on in the country? I don't think we've violated any law. And I would want someone to quote which law we've violated by informing Kenyans about what is going on, by informing Kenyans about citizens who've gone to the streets to fight for their rights under the Constitution, because the Constitution under the Bill of Rights gives every Kenyan a right to picket, right to demonstrate. And what we are doing as journalists is to give them a voice, give them a platform to air their grievances, to express themselves. So which law has media in Kenya violated? By giving Kenyans a platform to air their views, to air their opinion. Because the Constitution is very clear, and I'm sure that is what guides all media outlets in Kenya. And Article 34 and 35, and we've gone through it. And every Kenyan has the right to access to information. And what we are doing right now as media is giving them the right to access information about what is going on in the country. I don't think media, by doing that, is violating any law or inciting anyone. All we are doing as media is giving everybody a platform to get to know what is going on, you know, because it helps, you know, and it's through these platforms where Article 10 of the Constitution also gives people the right to engage, express themselves, and give their opinion, right? So that's exactly what we are doing as media. We are just creating a platform. We have not, according to me, violated any law by giving the Kenyans as citizens an opportunity to express themselves and access information. That is according to the Constitution. And I would want someone to quote which article exactly media has violated by giving Kenyans an opportunity to express themselves and access information, and for media to express or enjoy the rights given to them under the Bill of Rights. Because media is the only entity that has been given that power under the Bill of Rights that talks about the rights given to Kenyans. Why did media why did Kenyans vote for a constitution that gave Kenyans all this power? Because we are the watchdog of the society. We are the voice of the people. We are the ones who have been mandated to give them an opportunity to express themselves. So according to me, what the Communication Authority has done today is violating the same constitution that Kenyans voted for.
All right, so Joseph and Sam, I'm going to be coming to you in a while just to shed more light on that. But as I said earlier here on the Standard Media Group, we are consulting our lawyers to establish the legality of this order. Meanwhile, we just want to know what is happening at the CBD, and I'm now joined by Fred Kagonye just to tell us more on that. Fred, good afternoon. What is really transpiring at CBD?
Good afternoon, Grace. We are coming to you live from the intersection of Lumbini and Kenyatta Avenue, where a large group of protesters have converged, and they are chanting one thing, that one term and Ruto must go. So that is the message that they are passing across. We've seen that they have engaged police in running battles where they are pelting them with stones, while police are retaliating and trying to disperse them using tear gas canisters. Also, while we are here, we witnessed one person who was injured. From what we've gathered is that he was stabbed on his stomach, but the medics have come and taken him and performed first aid, and then took him to a medical camp, which is not far from where we are standing. But from your screens, what you can see is a town that has that is basically full of protesters. We've seen police officers are coming in their vehicles, trying to disperse them using tear gas canisters, but they have not been successful. The protesters are basically dispersing, and then after a few minutes, they are then converging again. And the song that they are singing is that they want to march to State House, which we are waiting to see what happens. But I'm joined by one of the protesters here. We will do a short interview with him. He will start by introducing himself. I can see he's holding the Bible. So naomba uanze kwa majina, useme jina unaitwa nani na mbona leo umetokea kwa street?
Yeah. Bishop Shake, na siku ya leo nimekuja huku Nairobi kuandamana kwa sababu natafuta haki. Tunatafuta haki ya wale vijana wetu majenzi waliuliwa, na wengine pia kuna wengine wako hospitali.
we do apologize for that technical hitch, but we are going to be joining Kagonye just to tell us more of that. But we just want to go on with the conversation. But before I said, remember I said earlier that we have seen a letter circulating from the Communications Authority ordering all media houses to cease live broadcasting of the ongoing maandamano. Joseph, I was coming to you just to shed some light on that. Does this really mean that some accountability is trying to be hidden?
I think, Grace, the media supports many people to know what is happening, especially for us who work in this area of police accountability. We have most time to depend on media clips that have been captured so that we are able to follow up issues of accountability within the criminal justice system. And I must say that journalists are very brave people. I see my friend Kagoe there being surrounded by a lot of tear gas, but they are braving it all to just show us or tell us the story that is happening on the ground. And I feel without the media being on ground, how will you know if abuses have happened there? I mean, when you look at even what we are commemorating today, June 25th, last year, the killings that happened, were it not for media, probably we will not be able to know how many people were killed, how they were killed, and even to gather evidence on what has killed. And I want to echo what the Independent Policing Oversight Authority chair said on Monday during a commemoration we are having. And he said that by law, police are supposed to report to IPOA when a death has occurred. But unfortunately, only 20% of these deaths are reported by the police to IPOA. And the chair said that 80% come from media sources and also from citizens. So I feel with a media blackout, of knowing what is going, responders that are there, human rights organizations that are there on the ground cannot know if people have been injured. Sometimes you have to depend on media reports to know how many people have been injured. Responders like Red Cross, if people have been injured, they need to know. And the way they can know is by following what the media is showing. So I feel that this totally also affects the issue of accountability because I was very encouraged when I saw the police say that they are going to provide security for everyone. But unfortunately, as it is right now, I see a lot of tear gas all over. And when there's a lot of tear gas, what happens is that there's a lot of confusion that is created. And when confusion is created, a peaceful demonstration can escalate to become a very chaotic, protest. Because when it started, I saw people with Bible, the guy who has been interviewed there, they were coming with Bible, coming with flags. But right now, I think just by throwing tear gas all over, and then coming and stopping now what is happening with live coverage then, we are left in total darkness. We'll not know how many people have been injured, which police officers have committed these offenses, because we really need to know and follow up even as human rights organizations.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sam, before I head back to Kagonye,
Okay.
you're also a young Kenyan,
Yeah, sure.
and now we know the power of social media. So as much as there's this blackout of the mainstream media, because most of the time these clips that circulate, they don't circulate from mainstream media, they circulate from people on their phones.
Yeah,
What
sure.
do you make of that?
What I make about the social media, and especially in relation to what the government is trying to do, I think they are trying to stop a movement that has already started. And the attempt to block the media, the coverage media, from Kenyans viewing what is happening live from the country, I think they will not succeed in this. Because one, most of the young people are digital activists, where most of them are based in social media, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp. Like, for example, most of my friends, and actually most of the young people, are out in the street. A friend from Kisumu, a friend from Nairobi, a friend from Nyeri, I just view his status, his or her status, and just see what is happening. So the attempt to use to block the main coverage media, I think they not succeed in this. And we have the social media platforms, which the young people are digital, tech savvy, and they have taken up upon themselves. Sharing one information from one place to another, it's really easy, especially in the current Kenya. Yeah, they should embrace that Kenya has become digital, and that's the position we are in as the young people.
All right, Zubeda, back to you as the Editors Guild. What really should now we expect moving forward? If Maandamano's live coverage of certain events are going to be seized from the country, what really does that even mean for mainstream media?
I think what the government needs to do is go back to the Constitution. Don't lead a country out of emotions. Because we had this same case filed in court in 2023, and I'll take us back to that case and the ruling that was made by Justice Chacha Mwita. It was a case that was brought by Kenya Editors Guild and others versus the Communication Authority of Kenya in 2023. In this landmark case, the High Court issued conservatory orders restraining the Communication Authority of Kenya from interfering with live media broadcasts. This is a directive that was issued by the courts. I don't know why they keep going back to interfering with the rights and freedoms guaranteed to us by the Constitution. The court held that the Communication Authority's threat to shut down media stations or interfere with live coverage were unconstitutional, and I'm putting that in bold, and posed a serious danger to press freedom. These actions were founded to be the violation of Articles 34, 35 of the Constitution 2010, which guarantees freedom and independence of the media, that is Article 34, and the rights to access information under Article 35. And the same ruling reinforced the media's critical role in a democratic society and affirmed that state agencies must not gag or intimidate the press, especially during moments of national importance. And I would say today's events is an issue that is of public interest, and we need to keep Kenyans informed about what is going on. And so Communication Authority Director General needs to go back to the Constitution, read, and not apply the law selectively. Read Article 34, 35 of the Constitution, and go back to the directives issued by the court last year, and not try to intimidate or gag the media because we are just expressing our rights or doing our mandates or doing our job as guaranteed under the Constitution. We've been given the right to inform Kenyans, and that's exactly what we are doing. And I said earlier, we are the public watchdog. Kenyans need to know what is going on. Kenyans need to be informed, and that's why we have media, you know, and the government needs to respect that, not apply the law selectively. You can't threaten to shut down a media station just because they are informing Kenyans of what is going on. Standard Group, for example, is an institution that has been targeted, offline and online. We've seen threats online. We've seen targeted attacks online against Standard Group, just because of informing Kenyans. You remember a while back this year, we saw advertising withdrawn from Standard Group just because of publishing a story that was not popular with some individuals, you know, which is very unfortunate. The law is very clear about the rights guaranteed to media, and we need those rights to be respected. And the law is clear. We are guided by the law, and I'll keep saying that. We are guided by the law. The editors in our newsrooms, that's why we have editors, because they are the gatekeepers in our newsrooms. They keep watch of what is going on and decide what is good for the public and what is not. We just don't publish stories. We just don't go live on TV stations without first looking at what we are airing, you know, and seeing and looking at whether it's safe for the public consumption or not. And that's exactly what has happened since morning. We've just highlighted and showed the public what is going on for them to know, to be informed, so that they make informed decisions about their day-to-day activities, right? So the government needs to respect the media and give us the right and opportunity to do what is rightfully our mandate as media. So we condemn what the government has done and the statement issued by the Director General of Communication Authority, and we urge all media houses to ensure that any information that they publish is verified, is accurate, and is safe for public consumption, you know, because that's why we have fact-checking desks in our newsroom, to fact-check information that goes out to public, to ensure that Kenyans, in as much as we want to inform them, we inform them in a rightful manner, you know. So threats to media houses is outdated, you know. We are in a different era as a country, because even if they ask the mainstream media not to air this, it's all over social media. International media are also airing what is happening in the country. And again, we ask, what is it that we are hiding? What is it that we don't want the public to know? What is it that we don't want our audiences to be informed of? What is it they are hiding as a country, as a government? So all we are saying is that we have to respect the Constitution. We have to respect the law. We have to be guided by the law, and we should not apply the law selectively.
Right. Thank you so much, Zubeida. We're going to be going on with that conversation, but as she said here, we continue to be bold here on the Standard. We now want to cross over to Makueni, where Stephen Zioka is standby to tell us what the eastern side is saying about the ongoing demonstrations. Stephen, good afternoon. What really is transpiring in Makueni?
Yes, good afternoon to you. I think is a little bit afternoon. I would like to switch to Kiswahili a little bit and explain to you a little bit ni nini ambayo imeweza kuendelea tangu mida ya asubuhi katika kaunti ya Makueni, na nipo hapa mjini Wote. Na itakumbukwa kuwa hapa mjini Wote mwaka mmoja uliopita, wakati wa maandamano ya vijana wa Gen Z, kijana mmoja aliweza kupigwa risasi na kuuawa hapa mjini Wote, na vile vile mwingine akiweza kupigwa risasi na kuuawa kule mjini ya Mali, na kule Kibwezi Alex Muteti ambaye aliuawa akiwa na miaka 21, na kijana mwingine akiweza kuuawa ambaye alikuwa anaitwa Dennis Lubanga ambaye alizikwa kule maeneo ya magharibi pia akiweza kupigwa risasi na kuuawa. Hivyo leo vijana wamejitokeza kwenye mji huu wa Wote na kufanya maandamano. Wameweza kufunga barabara za kutoka Machakos kuja hapa mjini Wote, na barabara ya kutoka hapa Wote kuelekea Makindu imeweza kufungwa, na hakuna biashara yoyote ambayo inaendelea hapa Wote. Ni vijana tu maandamano, huku maafisa wa polisi wakiweza kuwatawanya mara kwa mara vijana hawa kwa kutumia risasi za plastiki. Nataka tu tuweze kuongea na mmoja tu wa ambaye ameweza kujitokeza hapa kwenye maandamano ya leo. Taanza tu kwa majina, then utatuelezea maandamano yamekuwa namna gani.
Okay, kwa majina mimi naitwa Justice Mutuku, nikiwa mkaji hapa Makueni, Wote Town, ambapo siku ya leo vile imesemekana kuna ile anniversary ya police brutality ambayo ilifanyika mwaka jana tarehe kama leo. Na sasa siku ya leo vijana wamejitokeza kwa wingi kuja katika barabara, ambapo walikuwa wakiandamana wakitaka haki kwa wale ambao waliuawa na polisi, wale waliumizwa. Sasa vile vijana kuna ghadhabu nyingi sana, wanasema lazima watu ambao waliuawa na polisi hii mambo ichunguzwe, na pia wale ambao waliuawa wafanyiwe compensation, wale waliumizwa wafanyiwe compensation, na pia familia zao ziangaliwe kwa sababu walipoteza wapendwa wao katika wakati walikuwa wanapigania haki zao, hasa katika kukataa ile ilikuwa inaitwa finance bill ya mwaka jana. Sasa siku ya leo vile ningesema ni kwamba vijana wamejitokeza, ingawa tu kulikuwa na furumai kidogo, lakini si sana. Waandamanaji tumeona wamekuwa peaceful to such an extent, ingawa tu kuna vijana wadogodogo kama vile wamekuja hapa wameweza kuchoma magurudumu, kama vile unaona hapa nyuma yangu kuna hii trailer ambayo imeletwa kwa barabara. Hii ni barabara kutoka Machakos kuja hapa Wote, wamejaribu kuizuia na kuifunga na magari yako na shida ya kupita. Kwa hivyo mimi vile ningesema tu ni vijana waangalie, wahakikishe kuna amani na wasigoge magari za wenyewe ama kupora chochote, lakini waangalie wadumisha amani, sababu article 37 ya constitution ya Kenya inakubali watu waandamane lakini wakiwa peaceful when they are not armed. Kwa hivyo mimi ningesema ni kwamba hakuna shida hapa Makueni town ya Wote. Ni hivyo tu vijana wanataka tu serikali iweze kusikiza hawa wananchi, wananchi wasikizwe na serikali pia sana, sababu kuna wale waliuawa kule Nairobi siku ile walikuwa wameingia kwale kwa mbunge sababu ya finance bill. Waangalie jinsi vile watafanya ili serikali tusikize tu vijana, sababu wajinzi wametokezea kwa wingi. Mimi kama mkaji hapo wote tunasema kuna amani, na tunauliza tu kuendelea kudumisha amani na waache kuchoma magurudumu na kuziba barabara, sababu wale wengine wananchi bado wako hapa kwa barabara na pia wako kwa shughuli zao. Tuangalie tu, lakini kwa jumla hakuna shida yoyote hapa Makueni wote, na hakuna furumai. Ni vile tu polisi wametawanya baadhi ya waandamanaji kule, walikuwa wameenda kule kwa ile National Affordable Housing, lakini hakuna jeraha yoyote. Kwa hiyo tunasema huko kuna amani, maandamano pia yanaendelea vizuri na hakuna shida yoyote, hakuna mtu ameumia. Polisi tunaona hata hawana kazi, sababu kazi yao ni kulinda tu, naona watulinda, hata ni hao wanatulinda, wanaendelea kutulinda, hakuna shida.
Asante, mweza kumsikia huyo akituelezea tu taswira tu venye iko hapa mjini Woteni, kaunti ya Makueni. Na itakumbukwa tu hapo mida ya asubuhi tuliweza kuona vijana wakiwasha mishumaa mahali yule kijana aliweza kupigwa risasi na kuuawa mwaka uliopita, na kumkumbuka tu na kukumbuka baadhi ya wengine ambao waliaga dunia hapa nchini Kenya. Kutoka kwangu hapa mjini Woteni, sina la ziada. Mimi ni Steven Zioka, kwako studio.
Basi tunashukuru sana Steven Zioka kwa kutupa tafsiri hiyo kutoka kaunti ya Makueni. Now we want to continue with the conversation onto why we are commemorating this day, even as we remember that the Communications Authority has ordered all media houses to cease live broadcasting of the maandamano. It is a day that, of course, Kenyans are going to remember is actually in the history books. And when we come to the report card of what really transpired last year, have the reforms been met? From last year to date, I'll start with you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think 1 year down the line, whatever happened last year, no reforms have happened. Actually, the state or the government of Kenya is adding more salt to the injury. When we, the Gen Zs, went out to the streets last year, we are demanding for accountability and transparency in leadership. We are calling out for bad leadership and asking for good leadership for this country. Unfortunately, what we are met with is some specific individuals who wanted to take advantage of the situation. And I'll give a very good example with the occurrences that happened afterwards, where we had some individuals from the opposition get into the government through the Gen Z's maandamanos. They took advantage of that. Without the government will listen to the young people. That never happened. And it is very unfortunate that 1 year down the line, the same people in those positions, they are still in the positions. No reforms has been made, and that is why, up to date, this year maandamano started quite early, following the recent death of Albert Ojwang and abductions, reckless abductions by the government. And I think it's high time the government of Kenya listen to its people. The people of Kenya elected the Kenya Kwanza government with full confidence that they will listen to them and that they will serve them diligently. Unfortunately, what is happening, the same people who elected or who put the government in place, they are being killed, they are being abducted, they are being tortured. And I think mentally, Kenyans, you are not okay. Mm-hmm. Whatever the government is suppressing us to, it's really not light. Mm-hmm. And I think there is much more work to do. And we wish the president, our president, dear President Ruto, please listen to Kenyans. Just make the reforms, put your government in order, and this government will move forward. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it will not be a walk in the park.
Mm-hmm. All right. Joseph, the demands last year were as clear as daylight, all right? Cutting on expenditure, reducing taxes, accountability. A year later, are we there? What has been done? What are the hits and what are the misses as we commemorate this day?
I think very little has happened. And when you see so many people coming out on the street today, it's just an indicator of how the economy is doing, because we've continued to see shrinking pay slips for people who are employed. And I think this is a really targeted group. And remember, one pay slip in Kenya really supports probably around 15 people. And if that same pay slip is raided over and over again, there's a big problem on that. There are many levies that young people are complaining about, and these levies are still there. There's still SHA, there's still housing levy. You're paying a housing levy for a house that you cannot afford yourself. Even people who they say earn a lot of money cannot afford these things, because there's a lot of burden. And when there's a lot of burden, sometimes when I see the anger that Kenyans have, even on the police, it's because right now in the streets, the only government representation on the street is the police. So all the anger that people have are definitely going to be put on the face of government on the street on that. And when it comes to issue of accountability, it's really a very sad state of affair, because the president himself said that there will be justice, there will be accountability, especially for deaths that happened during Gen Z over 60, Missing Voices coalition that I support with other coalition partners, documented at least 58, and you can see there are 2 that were known, so they make 60 people. But out of those 60 people, and IPOA themselves came and gave us a scorecard when BBC released the documentary, only 2 cases have gone to court, and one is as an inquest. I don't know if you know what an inquest is, because an inquest means that you're starting to do an inquiry. Court is doing an inquiry to identify who killed Rex Masai, for example. So it is not a criminal liability case that is going on right now. You are not going, after this inquest, you're not going to say that the person who pulled the trigger on Rex Masai is going to be arrested and jailed. What is going to happen is that an inquest will sit. After determining that, then they will come and say, oh, probably this police officer is the one who shot Rex Masai. And then we have to start a criminal case against that officer. Can you imagine how long that case will take? And this is only 2 cases that have gone to court. For all the names I've seen, Standard and even KTN and other media have today honored these victims of police killings. They have honored them with their names. They have names. They have families that are crying. Missing Voices recorded 55 disappearances that happened last year. These are people that disappeared, have never been found. A mother is sitting somewhere, hearing a knock and thinking that the son is coming back home. And then the son is not there. When the phone rings, this mother is thinking, oh, this child has come back home but has not. So when it comes to issues of accountability, and I think this is what really people are very unhappy about, that of all these deaths that happened, especially during the Gen Z protests, accountability has not happened. Right. There has not been justice that has happened in these cases. And I think even when people went to the streets recently on Albert Ojwang, for example, what happened? Another use of force on Boniface happened. And you can see you're going to protest against a killing, and then we kill more people. And it's my prayer that today we will not have the same report of killing, so that next year we are going to commemorate 2024 and 2025. Because what is happening here, and I think, Grace, if you will allow me, let me take you back. Even in 2023, remember, there were Maandamano deaths. And during these Maandamano deaths, has there been accountability in those deaths? And so many people died, over 50 died. In fact, International Justice Mission is representing 28 victims from Kisumu of 2023 Maandamano. There's been no justice in 2023 Maandamano. There's been no justice so far in 2024. And even the death for 2017, like baby Samantha Pento, happened during protest kind of thing. But I think when it comes to accountability during protests and demonstrations, we are doing very badly.
All right, we're going to touch on accountability in just a while. Zubaida, I'm going to be coming to you after. We'll talk about even the media a year later, what were the reforms that you expected to happen and what hasn't. But before that, I'm now going to be joined by Francis Ontoma, who is at the CBD. Ontoma, earlier on, you had said that even the journalists were actually being attacked during the morning session. What has transpired so far?
Well, Grace, just when we were thinking that we were having a de-escalation here of this protest in the city, there seems to be the opposite, because we are seeing more and more power coming into these demonstrations. Right now, the pictures we are relaying to are pictures around Givenchy Gardens. And as you can see here, we are trying to stabilize our shots, of course. This is Mwindi Mbingu Streets. Mwindi Mbingu Streets is just close to Givenchy Gardens. And here we are seeing a group of protesters on the opposite side, and on this other side are the police officers. So they are trying to engage each other. And as you realize rightly, Mwindi Mbingu is the road that leads all the way to Central Police Station. So there seems to be a scheme from the demonstrators. They want to move along and try to push further and see whether they can reach the Central Police Station. We saw that happen in the morning, and it wasn't really very nice. Since we saw the police, we saw the protesters moving even close to the Central Police Station gates, and they were repulsed and they were pushed back. And right now, that is the attempt that we are seeing. Looking at the history of these kinds of protests, these are there is normally a bit of things normally take a backseat in a way, but that is not what we are witnessing here today, because we are seeing these crowds charged even more and more. We understand that there were some roads that had been closed earlier on in the day. You couldn't access the CBD from certain roads, for instance, Jogo and Thika Road. But these roads, we understand that they have sort of been run over. So the demonstrators have all made their way to the city. So right now it's really an affair of just waiting, watching and see, because there is the police are trying to push these people outside town. I think that is the main scheme right now. They're trying to see whether they can push them outside the city and be able to take charge of affairs. But we are not witnessing any of such happening. The demonstrators are not relenting. They're still pushing on, and that is the scenes we are witnessing here. So Grace, if I take you back, really this day was meant to be a memorial service for the souls that passed on following last year's skirmishes. But this is the opposite of what we are witnessing here, because it's really a heated demonstration that we are witnessing here. And I've been speaking to some of the youth here. They're saying they're pushing. There is a push for change in this country. They are pushing for a better life. Some of them are university graduates, and they're saying they're not moving back home until they push and someone listens to what they want to pass across. So it's really a tough day. It's really I interacted with a scene that happened around I&M. We saw a police woman who was badly hit by stone. The stones were being pelted from all across. It was really nasty, and we actually pray that she's well wherever she is, but we saw medics attending to her. We've seen so many movements of ambulances all across the city, and it tells you of the casualties perhaps, or the number of people who are being who have been injured in these skirmishes. So far yet we cannot report on any casualty yet, but we've seen in terms of victims injured, we've countless of them injured. There is one who was hit by a tear gas, a lady hit by a tear gas on the chin, and it was really bad scenes here in the city. So we are still watching to see whether there will be a de-escalation. We are waiting to see whether police will be able to contain these crowds that are coming in. We haven't had much in terms of the goons. Though we understand there are places that have been really damaged on the lower side of the town. But what you are hoping is maybe in the next few hours this can be contained, Grace.
All right. Thank you so much, Ontoma, for bringing us to speed on what is happening at CBD. Now, we're now going to cross over to Nyeri, where Clement Masombo is standby to also give us a context of what Kenyans or how they're commemorating this day in Nyeri County. Clement, what really is happening? Is the situation same as here in CBD?
Well, very good afternoon to you, Grace. Indeed, here in Nyeri County, right here where I'm standing from, just a few meters from the Nyeri Central Police Station, And from a distance, I'm sure that the cameraman can zoom in and see. We have some bonfire that have been lit across the road, along the road rather. And this, of course, indicates that the road has been blocked. And this is the main road that connects Nyeri to other towns. And the situation is the same in all other streets in Nyeri town. Most businesses have closed down, of course, for the fear of what might come out of the demonstrations. But right from morning, we have witnessed youth in large numbers marching in the streets, on the streets of Nyeri town, demanding for also decrying a high rate of unemployment. And they were saying that, of course, they're singing anti-government slogans, insisting that the government, the administration that is currently in power should walk out. And they are saying, of course, they have tried to provoke the police officers, but we have not seen anything so far. Police officers have not responded to them, and in most instances, we have seen police vehicles being driven away by police officers, not engaging the riot, the demonstrators, and of course, taking cover and protecting most premises within within Nyeri town, especially those big businesses. Unlike last year, where we saw demonstrators and other looters invading any supermarket, today we have seen things running relatively smoothly and calm. There hasn't been much to report on, but maybe let me see if I'll get a few youth here to speak to. Just come move to this side. Utuambie jina lako nani na mnaendelea na maandamano. Hali iko vipi kufikia sasa? Nini ambacho nyinyi mnataka?
Kwa sasa kwa majina naitwa Mark. Mimi ni mkazi wa Nyeri. Na sisi tumetokea maandamano na maandamano yetu ni amani.
Well, we apologize for that. We are going to be heading back to Nyeri and join Clement Masombo for that. Before we went on those links, Zubeida was coming to you. We were talking about Gen Z's 1 year's demand, the reflections, whether some of the demands have been met. Also, when it comes to the media, there's some reforms that we hoped could have changed. But now from what we've seen today, we still have a long way to go. Do you think there's any changes that have really come 1 year later?
Honestly, other than threats, I don't see much that has changed, because the same as Kenyans, media houses have been calling for accountability, because there's a report that was released on Monday by IMLU that stated that there were about 298 cases that were filed during the Gen Z-led protest last year. Out of those, 63 people were killed, most of them young people. 48 were killed through by the police. 48 of them were shot at by the police. And to date, 1 year later, we've been doing different investigation stories, we've covered different stories, we've spoken to families, and to date, they are crying for justice. Mm-hmm. Media houses have kept those stories alive because it's our responsibility to hold those in leadership accountable. And that's why, even by airing live events, we are holding not only the leadership to account, but also the citizens, those who are demonstrating, because the Constitution is clear. Your rights should not violate the other person's rights. And that's how we even keep these government institutions aware of what is going on, so that, especially the police, to know the kind of enforcement they need. The other day, it was captured on camera, a police officer, 2 police officers attacking someone in town who was shot at, a hawker in town who was shot at. If that was not captured, would that family get a justice? The case of Albert Ojwang, if it was not brought to the attention of the public by the media, would that family get justice? Mm-hmm. And that has been our role as media, to hold those in leadership accountable, to keep these stories alive, for there to be justice. Because if we don't keep these stories alive, they die off. If we don't follow up the stories, if we don't keep the public informed about what is going on, the cases that have been filed in court, the progress and so on, would there be justice? Would there be accountability? There wouldn't. And that's why, as media, we play our role. And one thing that the public needs to know, under the Code of Conduct, we have a 7 seconds delay rule, where whenever you're live for any kind of event, you have to delay it for 7 seconds. Why? For you to make an informed decision on whether that clip should go live or not. That's why even right now, we have what we call a gallery. There are editors there who are monitoring and producers monitoring. There's a director who is monitoring to see what is going live and whether it should be broadcast live or not. That decision is made at the gallery. We don't just pick clips randomly. And in this era of technology, there's a lot of misinformation. And that's why at the end of the day, everybody, every viewer will go to a media house that is accredited to verify that information to know whether it's accurate or not. And that's how, as media houses, we keep Kenyans informed based on accuracy and ethical journalism. That's what guides us. And there's also another right guaranteed to us, editorial independence. I don't see any article of the Constitution that gives Communication Authority the right to control content that is aired on any media house. Because that decision lies entirely with the media house. Whether to broadcast something live or not, it lies entirely to that specific media house. I've seen the Director General quoting the Thika Act 1998, but I don't see in that act where the Communication Authority has been given the right to control editorial content. I don't see anywhere they've been given that right. I don't know why they are violating editorial independence by quoting and applying the law selectively. So for us to air these stories, it keeps the country informed, yes, and holding those involved accountable. Because if these stories don't air, the public will not know about what is going on. The public, those involved will not be held to account. And that's why we call them out all the time, that you promise things, have you delivered? You were involved in this. Have these people been held to account? Because even on Monday, there was a report that was released by APOA where they said since Albert Ojwang was murdered, the time Albert Ojwang was murdered to date, 20 more people have died in the hands of the police. Who will hold these people to account if the public is not informed about what is going on? If these people are not being held to account? Because even the chair of IPOA, Isaac Hassan, was quoted saying that what is affecting the justice system is that they're not getting as much support as they need, especially from the police. So how are we going to hold these people to account if we are not supporting the institutions that are supposed to offer justice to Kenyans? Right. So we are giving Kenyans a voice. We are the voice of the people. And that's the only way we will ensure that there is accountability. And also, a free press is a pillar of democracy. If you undermine press freedom, it means that you are undermining democracy. And as a country, we cannot grow if we keep undermining democracy. So what we are saying at the end of the day is that we must respect the Constitution. We must be guided by the rule of law. We must respect the Constitution that was voted for overwhelmingly by Kenyans.
Right. Yeah. And just to emphasize on what Zubeida says, when it comes to the case of Boniface Kariuki, the hawker, who was shot at close range by a police officer, we only came to know that there were other cases from that one particular shooting. The next day we saw the Kenyatta National Hospital say that they had received more gunshot wounds in that particular hospital. So that really emphasizes on the need of why we need to broadcast what we're broadcasting, and we are not violating any law. Joseph, when it comes to you, perhaps when you talk about accountability, because Zubeida has really touched on accountability. Last year, it has been reported 60 deaths, over 600 injuries. And what is the challenge when it comes to the prosecution and execution of such cases? Because 1 year later, those cases are still pending. Families are still calling for accountability. What really is the challenge when it comes to the prosecution and execution of such cases?
Yeah, thank you, Grace. And even before I answer on the issue of accountability, I just want to echo what Zubeida said on media freedom. Because first, I'm a journalist. I've been an editor in the newsroom for many years. And even at the International Justice Mission, we have trained many journalists to objectively cover issues of policing. A number of journalists, we've covered them to ethically, and this is what they have been doing, and I feel that even as an institution, we really need to condemn, because as Zubaida has said, that ruling last year by Justice Mugambi, he clearly said that if a communication authority claims to control what is published, they are usurping the power of the Media Council. If it was the Media Council that had released this statement today, probably we will be having more discussion around it, as opposed to communication authority usurping the power of that. And this means that to the extent that Section 46A, 1 and J of the Kenya Information Communication Act, it gives similar role to the communication authority was misplaced duplication. That is what the court ruled, that by CAA taking this power, they are duplicating the role of Media Council. And I think we have institutions that have been put in place so that they can be able to manage the country better. But also, when it comes to the issue of accountability, I think one of the biggest challenges that we find is because IPOA, there are two accountability mechanisms in Kenya. One, we have the civilian oversight of the police, that is IPOA, Independent Policing Oversight Authority, and IPOA has been mandated to investigate cases that are grievous harm and also murder, enforced disappearances. And then we have Internal Affairs Unit within the National Police Service that is also supposed to investigate and deal with other matters within the police service, and also National Police Service Commission, that also is the HR for police, that deals also with misconducts of senior police officers. But the challenge that I think, having worked, because we support IPOA in work, and also we take cases of police misconduct to court. In fact, right now we have probably around over 60 cases of that nature in court. I think the biggest challenge that IPOA has found is on the issue of investigations, ballistic evidence and forensic evidence. Because remember, like for Rex Masai case, this is a case that is in court, but why it went for an inquest? It's because when a bullet is recovered, it needs to go for ballistic and forensic examination to know from which gun did this bullet come from. But unfortunately, the same IPOA does not have a lab to do ballistics. So this ballistic has to go to DCI to do it. And IPOA has cried for a number of times that sometimes it's very difficult. It takes long for them to get feedback on ballistics from there. So that is a big challenge. Also, there's a challenge on capacity that I see, because when you look at even this year's budget, and this is something we really need to look at, this year's budget, when you look at the budget of Kenya National Human Rights Commission, that is mandated also to follow these cases, it has been slashed by half. This means that it has been paralyzed in a way. When you look at IPOA's budgets has also been cut. Look at witness protection, because one of the biggest challenges that you find is that when a police killing has happened, so many people are afraid of going to be witnesses in court, because you're afraid if I go and testify, what will happen to me? And so they need to be put under witness protection. And there's a witness protection agency that's supposed to take these people in, but also their capacity is limited. So I will say that Parliament has done a disservice even to these institutions, because they have been kind of grounded. They can't move to investigate these cases effectively, probably by design, that you don't want accountability to take place, or people are trying to line up their own projects that they care about. But I feel there's a lot of gaps when it comes to the issue of accountability, and then the political will, because I've seen government release statements about saying that IPOA is independent. It needs to go and investigate these cases, but you cannot be as independent if you still do not have a budget. And then I think the independence of the IG, I know the IG is supposed to be to take over the independence of the police. It doesn't need to take direction from anyone else. But unfortunately, I know there were amendments in the Constitution in 2014 that brought the amendment to the Security Act. And unfortunately, initially, the IG was supposed to be taken through a process of interviews so that they are picked independently without even the executive interference. But what has happened right now, the IG is appointed by the executive. So the independence of the IG still has to do with how free he is, because I mean, if today there's a lot of a protest in these streets, do we have orders coming from a different place than from the IG? For example, when Albert Ojwang was killed in police cell, for example, what was the first report that came from a police station? Yeah, I mean, a first statement comes, and you see the first statement that comes from a police station, that what they call the signal, determine how accountability will move on. If the statement is not accurate, and I agree with Zubeida, or it's not for media being there to direct what really happened, I don't think we'll have fast accountability of people being taken to court this fast. So I think there's a lot of challenges. I know we've made some progress when we come to accountability, because I remember when I joined this sector in 2016, when our lawyer at International Justice Mission had just been killed, Willie Kimani. I remember only 2 police officers had been convicted. But right now, when I do the count, we have about 50 that have been taken to court and convicted. So I see there's some progress on that level, that at least we've seen a number of police officers being convicted and jailed, even in the Willie Kimani case where 3 officers were convicted. But still, I think the biggest challenge we see now is why accountability is not happening for deaths during protests. I think that is where the rubber meets the road. What is happening? Is it because there's a lot of politics around protests that we don't want to kind of hold the officers account? And I know the biggest challenge has been that it's been said that it is very difficult to go and pinpoint which officer shot. So, but what we are saying now, when you look at Baby Pendo case, what we are saying with Baby Pendo case is that, and the inquest ruled that if the police cannot say that Baby Pendo was battered by this officer, then the commanders must take responsibility. And the issue of command responsibility now comes in, that in such a protest like here, if someone is killed in this protest and we cannot identify a police officer who shot this person, then the commander must take responsibility, because he's the one who knows which police officers are in which street, how are they armed, which gun were issued in the morning. It's only the commander that can know that. And so we cannot say that because we did not identify the person who shot this person, then there cannot be accountability. The commander then must take command responsibility for such death.
Right. And also when it comes to accountability and governance, Sam, what does the government's initial response to the Gen Z protests reveal about the relationship between the government and the young people? Having that the government actually lured the young people into voting for them in 2022.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe before I answer that, I would like to also add my voice to what Zubeida said, my good friend, about now the attempt by the just on the same, the attempt by the communication media of Kenya to block the live coverage. And I'm also thinking on the same, what are they hiding? And I think in my own thinking, I think the government now wants to use the guns and the police force and men and women to block the public scrutiny. And I think I was looking at the director of the Communication Authority of Kenya by the name David Mugonyi. He's an ally to President Ruto. And I think the accountability that you are talking about is such appointments to the government. We should condemn such appointments to government because whatever he's doing, I think he's stopping a Dahlia with a finger. Now, back to you about what we hold as we as the youths about the government of Kenya 1 year down the line. And I think leaders who don't listen to the young people, to the people who they lead, they are led by their own consequences. And I think this government does not listen to the young people. President Ruto, you cannot lead Kenya by ignoring voices of the majority of the population. The young people make up to 70% of the population. How can you lead a country when you are sidelining the opinions of 70% of the population? And I think we are not listened. We are not, the youth representation in Kenya, it's very poor. And that is why the young people are ugly and out in the streets. And it's high time that the young people are included, and the young people are listened, and the young people are directly involved in the political decisions and whatever is happening in the politics of Kenya.
All right. Zubeida, perhaps, do you think there is ever going to come at a point in the country where instructions are not going to be politically instigated?
That's a very difficult question because from what we've seen, evidently, nobody is listening. Because if they were listening, we would not be seeing Kenyans on the streets right now. Because even if the Constitution guarantees several rights, those rights are being violated on a day-to-day, but nobody is being held to account. These leaders have been elected to represent the people. Politicians have been, especially the members of parliament, are there to represent the voice of the people. But hardly is that done. It's never done at all, you know? And whenever they do it in a way that pleases their master. And that's the most unfortunate thing. Because last week, or is it last week but one, we were talking about the finance bill that brought Kenyans to the streets last year. But even if they haven't included new taxes to it, there are other amendments that have been done, the language has been changed, but the issues that were brought out by Kenyans last year, especially the Gen Zs, those issues are still there. So we are always blinded by kizungu mingi, but it doesn't mean that Kenyans are being listened to. And that's what most of them are saying. Most of them are so agitated, they're saying, we want our rights to be respected. The cases of kidnappings have been there endlessly. You remember even last year, one of our journalists was abducted inside a police station. And then later, they said it was a case of mistaken identity. But who doesn't know him? Everybody knows him. He's been a publisher for so many years, even before most of us joined the media industry. So if these things are being done inside police stations where we should be, you should feel safe, we should feel secure, it tells you there's a problem in this country. And that's why I said earlier, leaders should not be led by emotions. You can't just do things to please your master. What about the people that elected you, the people that put you in those positions? Who is going to represent them? And that's why the media has mandated themselves that responsibility of speaking to the people, for the people. Because we feel that most of these rights are being violated. Most politicians are also involved because we had, from what happened last week, the protests that were witnessed last week were sponsored by some politicians, which is very unfortunate. These people are supposed to be there to protect their people and guide them and lead them. But if they're involved in violating the rights of people by paying people mapeni kidogo, 200, 300 shillings, it's very unfortunate. And that's why I believe we put that article of recalling leaders in the Constitution. We need to enlighten Kenyans on their rights, what they need to do to hold their leaders to account. And that's why they feel, yes, even if we go to parliament, even if we go to state out, even if we go to the different institutions formed under the constitution, we are not going to get our rights. That's why they are pushing, using the constitution, going to the streets to demand for their rights. But I don't think there is that goodwill. I don't think there is political goodwill to ensure that the rights of Kenyans are respected. And you know, the Constitution is not just a document that we should put on the rack there and forget about it. That's what should be our mantra. Every day we wake up, we should remember the sovereignty of the people. Sovereignty belongs to the people. That's what should lead us every day, not just as journalists, but also as leaders. We should be guided by the Constitution, which we hardly look at because we are there because of selfish interest. If something works for me, then it goes. And you remember what Gen Z did last year. And I was really, really happy because we thought it's a constituency of people that is not interested in national issues. But from last year, we saw them going to the social media platforms and analyzing issue by issue, breaking it down, looking at the Constitution and other existing laws. What do they say? And breaking down those issues. And it's the same thing that we are seeing them doing in the streets. We don't see them carrying, other than the hired goons, we see the young people going out, carrying their water, carrying their flag, and the national newspaper, the bold newspaper, you know, calling out leaders. We elected you. We put you in those positions to speak for us. Where are you? And I hope we will not vote based on tribal lines in the next election, or because you like someone, you like how they dress and so on. I hope we've learned lessons from what happened last year and this year. Because from the look of things, 1 year later, personally, as an individual, as a Kenyan, not just as a journalist, I don't think there's anything to be proud of. We don't have anything to smile about as Kenyans. Because all those people who died, these are not just numbers. These are human beings. These are our brothers, our sisters that were killed just because of practicing or enjoying the rights guaranteed to them by the Constitution. What wrong did they do by going to the streets and saying we want the amendments to the finance bill? What wrong? And I think even the police need to go back, sit, relax, and look at the Constitution and what it says about freedom of expression, protest, and to picket. What does it say? Because what we've seen right now, and it has been captured on all media platforms, is that whenever people assemble, the first thing that the police do is lob tear gas canisters. Why? And we've seen, even there's a ruling that was issued by the court that whenever you're going to engage protesters or whenever there are protests, you should be in your attire where you're able to, somebody is able to tell who you are, where you work, which police station. But today, what have you seen? Most of them have come with those barracoas in civilian attire. How do we identify you as a police officer if you come out like that, dressed like that? So how are we going to hold these people to account if their leadership is not holding them to account as well? Because even we've seen very many journalists, even today we've seen journalists being attacked, and most of them were injured during today's protests. And they are easily identifiable. So why are we attacking journalists? And when we went to IPOA, and even the files were presented to DPP, most of those cases were dropped. Why? Because of lack of evidence. Because most of these police officers that attacked them were not identifiable. Most of them were in civilian clothes. So it was very hard to identify them. And the vehicles that we're using, you know. So how do we ensure there is justice in this country if we let everybody do what they want and without holding them to account? And as media, that's why we've stood our ground and said we will not be cowed. Despite the threats that we keep getting on a day-to-day, we will not be cowed. We will keep working for the people, because what leads us on a day-to-day is public interests. What interests in the public? Informing Kenyans on what is going on, giving them a voice to air their views and their opinions. And that's why we create such platforms for people to engage and find lasting solutions. But kila upande ukivutia kwake, we will never find solutions as a country. We are not here to be friends. We are here to hold each other's hands and work together as a nation. Why do we always have these prayer meetings? For us to think as a country soberly, to pray and let God lead us in making the right decisions. But after that, a day after, we find ourselves in the same situation. I think as a country, we haven't learned much, and I don't feel there's goodwill. And threats will not grow our economy. There's so much potential in this country, only if we listen to each other, not talking at each other. Listen to each other, sit down, and have a national conversation that will give us lasting solutions to what is happening. Because if we don't do that, we will keep going to the streets on a day-to-day. And remember, the world is watching. The world, investors are watching. So many companies have been shut down in Kenya. Not that there is no potential, but the environment has become so, it's not conducive. So that's why many people have decided to go and invest in other countries, which is not good for our economy. Right now, people are complaining, we can't afford a meal, you know? So how do we ensure that we have these lasting solutions? Listening. We are not good at that. We need to learn how to listen and not kujipiga kifua, and it will not lead us anywhere as a country.
All right.
Learn to listen to each other.
All right, Joseph, Zubeida has touched so much on the Constitution, and we're going to head there. But before that, just to remind you of our breaking news is that the Communications Authority has ordered all media houses to cease live broadcasting of the ongoing protests that are taking place across the country. And just to read a part of the memo, it says, this is to direct all television and radio stations to stop any live coverage of the demonstrations forthwith. Failure to abide by this directive will result in regulatory action. It further states that the live coverage of the June 25th, 2025 demonstrations is contrary to Articles 33(2) and 34(1) of the Constitution of Kenya. Here again, we're talking about the Constitution. But just to touch on what Zubeida talked about, the right to picket. Clearly, it's in the Constitution. There's no debate about it. Is there something that we are missing? Should it be removed from the Constitution? What really is the problem? Because do we really have the right to picket in the country as envisioned in the Constitution?
Thank you, Grace. And yesterday when I read the statement from the National Police Service, it was a 3-pager. And the service quoted the freedom to picket. I said Kenyans have freedom to hold protests peacefully, and I can see that even in the morning people started holding protests peacefully. And so that right is enshrined in the Constitution. There's nothing, I know this is a debate that has been have been there for a long time. People paid with their blood for us to have the freedom to assemble and freedom to protest. But also, one dangerous thing I'm seeing with this ban on media coverage, because remember, also those protesting in the streets have a right to access to information. Because every Kenyan has a right to access to information. And these protesters have a right to information that is held by the media. Yeah? So whatever KTN right now is broadcasting, protesters have a right to it, and it's a constitutional right to access that information. Yeah? So that information can enable them to exercise, they can exercise their right to picket. And then the ban is also in disregard of the principle enshrined in Article 35(1)(b) of the Constitution, since it denies those picketing the right to access vital information held by the media. So I think the more we have blackout, the more we can't tell what is happening. But I think also when going back to media freedoms that we keep on talking about, one of the thing, and it didn't start with this government, it started for some time, there's been a deliberate effort to weaken the media, because media is the fourth estate. We call it the fourth estate for a reason, because we have apart from the executive, the judiciary, and parliament, in comes the media as the fourth estate. And as the fourth estate needs to have muscles to be able to broadcast what is happening. Because the media is the representative of the people in the street right now. Right now, I am not in the street, but the media is representing me in the street to see what is happening in the street. So if the media is not telling me what is happening, and they have taken that role as the watchdog, as the representative of the people in the corridors of power. That's what we say. We are the representative of the people in the corridors of power, the media. And by denying the media that opportunity to be able to broadcast and to tell us what is happening, then we are lost. Even the police officers themselves, I know, when you go to police stations, they have TV stations. They have TV live. Right now, I am very sure right now if you go to all police stations, you will find TV. Because sometimes even these TV stations help the media, the police themselves to be able to know where there is, where goons probably are there, and they may want to control security in those areas. So I would say that we were promised yesterday that there will be a peaceful protest. I thought today I will see all these young people who have come, even the old people will come, they will go to church, pray, they will be protected by the officers, they will light candles, they will sing carols the way they had promised to do. But I agree, I don't know why the first thing that happens is with police have to throw tear gas. Because I feel throwing tear gas create a lot of confusion. Because when you look at the management of security, because they have handbook on management of protest, the way police, they are supposed to start. They are supposed to come here and announce that this is an illegal assembly if it is not a legal assembly. And then after that, they are supposed to, there's the way the use of force is supposed to be progressive. But what happens these days is that we start with throwing tear gas first, and then you bring water cannons, and then bullets start flying, and then in the long run, what started as a peaceful assembly end up being a very, very chaotic assembly. Yeah, and as you can see right now, the more you use force on people, the more people want to return the force back. So you throw tear gas, what do people do? They will start picking stone and throwing back stone. So you find that we are enabling chaos where there was not supposed to be chaos. And I will call on the police, let's stand by the statement that was released yesterday. Because when I saw the statement, the assurances that we've been given of peaceful protest, I thought it will continue. And we pray that there will be restraint, that today it will be very sad for me personally if someone is fatally injured in this protest.
All right, that provocation, we're going to talk about it in just a while, having that the president yesterday urged protesters not to provoke the police. Sam, we're going to be coming to you. But now we just want to know more about CBD. From there, you can see on the live pictures, things are not really good. Fred Kagonya is there. Fred, good afternoon. What new has transpired at the CBD?
Thank you very much, Grace. We are coming to you live from Kenyatta Avenue, where we've just walked along Wabera Street from Supreme Court, where we had taken refuge due to the running battles that have been witnessed here in Nairobi CBD between the protesters and police officers. What you can see now is that the protesters have been dispersed from this street, the Kenyatta Avenue where we are standing, and now the police officers have just retreated. What we witnessed during the time that we've been here is protesters pelting the officers with stones, and then the officers retaliating and using tear gas to try and disperse them. And as of now, they have scored one victory where the protesters have have basically been dispersed from here. Earlier, they were along this street and along Mwindi-Mbingu, also along Wabera, and also in the Koinange Street, where they engaged the police in running battles, where the protesters would be dispersed from one street, they would run to the other, and then the police officers would go to that new street where they've gone, and then they would run to the previous street where they were. That is basically what has been happening here today. It's been a cat and mouse game. And their call is simple. They want, they're chanting that Ruto must go, and one term, and a majority that we've spoken to are all calling for justice. There were some protesters who were killed last year during the Gen Z protest. So today was a commemoration where they're celebrating them, calling them shujas. But one of the key things that I've picked from one of the protesters is that he said that our grandfathers were oppressed and they didn't want oppression. Our fathers were oppressed, they didn't want oppression. But today, this generation that we are in today, they have rejected oppression. So basically, that is what has been happening here along Kenyatta Avenue and along Wabera, Koinange and Mwindi-Mbingu streets. And what we have also observed is some people getting injured during the running battles. But there are medics who are on call and ready on call who have responded swiftly to those who have been injured, and they have been taken to a medical camp which is not far from where we are standing on my left, near the Jamia Mosque. Grace.
Right. Thank you so much, Fred Kagonye. As you can see there on your screens, live pictures from CBD. Things not really looking pretty, but the protesters are peaceful. As you can see, they're just walking by, nothing really to cause of alarm. But of course, security operators are still active to ensure that peace is maintained in the CBD. We are continuing with the conversation. And you can continue talking to us, call us, lines are there running through your screens. Tell us what is happening around you, our numbers are there. And I just want to read a press statement, just some demands from the Kenya Editors Guild. One, they want the immediate withdrawal of the Communication Authority must rescind its illegal directive without delay. They also want to respect judicial orders, protect the public's right to know, support independent journalism, and encourage an oversight and reform. Those are just some of the demands from the Kenya Editors Guild right here, which is coming forth from our breaking news there, where the Communications Authority has ordered all media houses to cease the live broadcasting of the ongoing protests that are taking place in various parts of the country. We are going on with a conversation, and before we went to Kagonye, we were talking about the president yesterday asked protesters not to provoke the police. You know, a statement that was echoed by his Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kipchumba Murkomen. When the young people go out there, do they really provoke the police to act the way they act?
Okay, thank you. I think one of the most peaceful demonstrations you have ever experienced as a country is today. As you can see in the pictures, the protesters are very peaceful. They have no issue with the police. And actually, the statement by the president yesterday that we protect the protesters, I think it should not be treated with utmost attention, because we know who we are dealing with. And it is very long and actually very shameful when a person who once said, I'll quote what our president said last year after the Gen Z Maandamano, especially at a time like this. He called for a press statement. And actually, he said that the young people, he literally abused us. And he called us criminals, gangsters, and everything. How do you expect now the same person who called us criminals that he will protect the same people? And I think the Gen Z generation, is a generation that is not led with iron fists. It is a generation that is led by empathy, bold ideas, and influence. And I think the Gen Z, they don't wait for permission. They create their own space. They create movements. And they call out for justice with courage and clarity. And I think we are the digital
Sam, I'm
warriors.
just going to interrupt you for a minute. Let us just cross over and listen in live to actions rare at Nairobi CBD.
Mtoma yeye pia yeye alikuwa anasema tu cross alafu akabaki huko. Mtoma anaenda. Ndio kwa jumbi wote kwa gari. Kuna mtu hapa tena sasa, mnaenda wapi? Chris, kuna watu. Pigia ontomwa. Nini inaendelea hapa? Chunga mawe. Chris, chunga mawe. Ontomwa kwa wapi?
Right, chaotic scenes there from Nairobi CBD. Tear gas has been thrown at protesters. As you can see, 2 motorbikes there, tear gas at the center. Chaotic scenes. And remember what Francis Ontoma told us earlier on, that a police officer and a civilian were hit by tear gas at different states and they were rushed to the hospital. But as you can see, there are chaotic scenes. Our reporters are there. Of course, they're trying to keep us safe, keeping safe, as they bring us beat to beat of the protests that are ongoing at the CBD and also to various parts of the country. And we were just talking about the provocation by police.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I just repeat what I said, or maybe continue from where I left. And I would say one of the most peaceful protests we have ever seen in the history of Kenya is today. As you can see in our screens, the protesters are very peaceful. They have no issue with the police. They are just walking freely. The only thing that they are carrying is just a mask, a Kenyan flag, and water. So I really wonder the police provocation, where it comes from. And when our president yesterday said that be assured of my security as the protesters, I think I didn't treat that statement with utmost maybe respect or maybe attention that it deserves, because in the last year Gen Z's Madamanos, once the Gen Z Madamanos were heated up and the Gen Z's ended up in parliament, and the next step was going to State House. The president called for a press release, and it was very unfortunate coming from a head of state that you Gen Z's, the young people who are out in the streets, you are criminals. You know, that was very unfortunate. A person who should be a symbol of peace and national unity, we expected that he will bring us together as his children. Actually, you can only say that President Ruto can only be your father. But now, a father without empathy and compassion, I think even his own children will automatically dispel him. And I think it's high time that the president, or maybe the state or the government, realize that the Gen Z's revolution, or maybe the Gen Z's generation, these are people who cannot be led with iron fists. These are people who need to be led with empathy, bold ideas, and a lot of maybe utmost care. And I think the young generation of the Gen Z's, they don't wait for permission. They create their own space, they create movements, and they call out for justice with courage and clarity. And I think we as the Gen Zs, the digital warriors, the creative space, I think leadership without compassion is automatically outdated. So I think it's high time that our leaders have compassion in everything that they are doing and how they are leading this country. All right.
Joseph, do you think this Gen Z movement can actually evolve into a sustained political force, or will it fizzle out in the end?
I think in Kenya, the politics of Kenya are quite very divisive, I must say, because I've seen, it's unfortunate that every time there's a movement that comes up, I don't know whether it's because of political interference, many people come. I must say that since 2024 protests, I haven't seen so much that has come from the Gen Z forming into one unit to kind of fight, apart from now, today, where they have come together to meet. I haven't seen them having said that we have politicians that we are supporting.
They're leaderless.
So I don't know whether it can form, but unfortunately in Kenya, the politics is so tribal in nature, and that's the most unfortunate thing, that people come, even the politicians now who are really sending this force. When they were out of power, they were fighting against police abuse of power. They were fighting a lot of it. But now, when they're in power, they are forgotten. And those who have left power, they are now become the crusaders for justice. And I feel that there's been, we are being moved around cycles when it comes to young leadership that we feel, even I think in 2013 when the duo came to power, they were saying we are youthful leaders. We are going to change, we're going to put the youth at the center. But look at the youth of today. Down the line, money that, remember NYS when it started, that was employing so many youths in informal settlements. The money was embezzled because I think without political, without economic power, because elections in Kenya are about economic power. Without economic power, I think it's very difficult to move. And I know with time, you see even the Gen Zs who are most vocal last year, some of them, where are they? Some of them have gone under. Because if you are a young person who is leading a movement and you're living in an informal settlement where you can't afford rent of 5,000, for example, and someone comes and give you 500,000 you see, this is how they can be scattered very easily because of the economic power. But I believe that for me personally, I think change, if right now we are directing all this energy for people to go and register and vote, because I know most of young people do not vote. It reaches the time of voting, they don't. You find them, in fact, even 2022, so many young people, I will find them, I'll find them there waiting, relaxing when old mama is going to vote. And this is a big challenge, whereas they have the biggest numbers in Kenya that they can go and vote. So I think right now, because right now you cannot, even if you say that you want the president to go, right now constitutionally you can't remove him until 2027. But the best thing that the young people can do is to register, pick a candidate, and stand with that candidate so that the candidate that they pick in 2027, then we can say that this is our candidate, we'll hold him to account. And I feel that that is the biggest gap, but for me it's the economic power that the young people do not have. These days getting a job for young people is a very big problem. Even in construction industry these days it's becoming very difficult for young people to get jobs even there. And so there's a lot of energy that is there. And I think the biggest challenge the government even must address is the unemployment among young people. Because if all these young people are employed, highly well employed, things are working, they can pay for medical care and all these things, they will not have to come and stay and start speaking about one term, because they will be gainfully employed and they can be able to move forward. But I feel right now there's so many young people who are suffering because of the economic situation even in the country. So many people are being laid off. So many people are underemployed. You find someone has a degree as a master but is underemployed. Because the job he's doing does not match the skills that this young person has. And I think this is the problem that the government must address. Yeah.
Zubeida, when it comes to this faceless, this leaderless, from what has transpired the past 1 year, is it really time for now our elected leaders to sit back and now have a listen? Because now things, the way they are going, they just have to let their guard down and listen to its people.
You know, as you're saying that, what came to mind as I was watching these clips that are being aired live on KTN, you remember that cop? I don't know whether you were born, Grace. during the post-election violence. Remember
guy.
that cop that calmed things down by speaking to the people that were protesting during the post-election violence in 2007. And there was calm. They listened to him, and there was peace. And that's why I am saying, as leaders, these leaders that we have need to have that listening ear. We can't always use force and think that we'll get away with it. Force is not the solution. We can't keep fighting people. We can't keep engaging in attacks and inciting people. That's not the solution. That's not the Kenya we want. And I said earlier, so many people are watching. And these young people, when they came out, this movement, they said we are tribalists, we are leaderless, and that's the Kenya we want. We don't want to be tribal. Times have changed. We're in a different era right now. We can't keep, whenever someone is accused of corruption, the only language we know is that, oh, ni mtu wetu. We will never find solutions as Kenyans if that's the language you keep speaking every day. We need to open our eyes, and I believe that movement that came out last year, the Gen Z-led movement, should be an eye-opener to the leadership that we have in the country. But the problem is we are so short-sighted, we want to deal with what is happening right now without looking at the future. And I don't remember much about the leadership of the second president of the country, because, yes, that time I was young, and I don't want you to start guessing my age. But there's one thing that people praised him for. They said his kind of leadership was, alikuwa anatambulika ni kama giraffe. He kept looking ahead. Where do I want to lead this country? Where do I want this country to go? We can't just find solutions in a reactionary manner. Like people have gone to the streets, let's go and deal with them today. That's not what will give us solutions. We need to look ahead. Listen to the people. Listen to these Gen Zs. Look at the issues that they are raising and address those issues. We don't have to keep using force all the time, because that will lead to more agitation, will lead people to going back to the streets every day. But if these leaders sat back, forgot about their tribal inclinations, and looked at issues, because they are here to serve people, all Kenyans, not just people from their communities. Look at the issues without being emotional and address them. And with that, we will not see people on the streets, because there are very many promises that were made. And I think it has gotten to a time where we stopped even launching these manifestos, because they don't bring much change in our society. We keep promising so much that we cannot even deliver. Because 3 years later, if you asked yourself, what has been delivered out of all the promises that were made in 2022? And that's why people are agitated. It's not just about the extrajudicial killings. It's the unkept promises. Because you keep promising, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. You come, yes, with the finance bill. It's a constitutional document. But you don't explain to Kenyans that, yes, we've set aside this amount of money that will be used like this and this and this. What we see is that a lot of money is being channeled to projects that we don't see at the end of the day. We made promises that are not kept years on end. So, and that's why so many people, young people, have gone out there. They're saying, you've promised us this. When will you deliver? We've seen cases of corruption, and most of these people who've been accused of corruption have been sanitized. The most corrupt are the ones who are being given job opportunities. When will we hold these leaders to account? When will we see accountability for our money? We're being taxed every day. When will there be accountability? When will these people who are involved in extrajudicial killings be held to account? To date, we are still following up, even as journalists, for justice, compensation for the journalists who were injured during the protests. But those cases are being delayed because we are told, oh, there is no evidence and so on. We need justice as a country for there to, you know, there's one thing that Kriegler said in 2007. I joined KTN then as an intern. And he said there are very many reforms that needed to be addressed, particularly in our electoral process, for there to be peace in Kenya. And he said, and I quote, that what was witnessed in 2007 will be, did he say a wedding party in future, if those issues are not addressed. And to date, what we see is every electoral period, we see amendments to the law, amendments to the electoral law, just to suit certain people. But it doesn't mean that we are addressing those issues. And I remember I did peace and conflict studies at the university. And what we learned then was that Kenya is like a volcano. It always waits for an outlet to erupt. And this is what we are seeing right now. Because the more you keep things locked up, they always find an outlet to erupt. And that is what is leading people to the streets. Because there has been historical injustices that have not been addressed. And I don't know why our leaders are so blind to see what we need. They always think they will buy their way out na shilingi 200, shilingi 300. That is not the Kenya we want. Address issues. Because right now, many Kenyans, especially young people, are saying, we need jobs. We need jobs. And that's why there's a lot of hooliganism, because so many people are idle. They don't have jobs. They've gone to universities. They've studied. But right now, when you look at many, especially health, education, you cannot be proud as a Kenyan to look at the current states right now. Kenya, young people want funding for education. But where is that funding? So many people are dying in hospitals because there's no treatment, there's no medicine. But we set aside a budget for medication, for health in our budget. Where does that money go? If we started holding these people to account, even one person to be held to account, things will change in the country. But the more we chest thump, we'll never find solutions as a country. And that's what these young people are saying, and not just young people, because today, I think the face has changed. We've seen even the elderly coming to the streets and saying, you can't continue killing our children. Women are crying. But who is going to wipe away their tears? If these leaders are so blind to see or listen to what is being said. That parliament, if it's about increasing their salaries, they spend nights, hours in parliament discussing their salaries. But what about these extrajudicial killings? Why are they not discussing this? Why are they not calling out the leadership? Because they are there to represent the voice of the people. Why are they not doing it? And we pay them salaries to do that, to represent our voice, to represent us, to hold those involved accountable. Yes, that last week we saw, the committees in parliament started discussing the killings against Albert. And they invited these senior leaders, police officers, to parliament. But what happens after that? Yes, we've seen them in parliament, and then what? Does even that case progress? Because we are using state resources to do all these things, but at the end of the day, if that conversation dies down on media, on our televisions, that's the end of that case. And that's why, as media houses, we've sworn an oath to keep holding the leadership to account, to keep giving Kenyans a voice to express themselves and ensure that they get justice. But whenever we do that, what comes? A threat. We are going to shut you down. We are going to take away your licenses. We are going to withdraw advertising. That's not the Kenya we want. That's not the Kenya people went to the streets for, to fight for the new constitution. So at the end of the day, what we want is for the leadership to be guided by the rule of law. And we will not get tired of emphasizing on that. Because right now, ni ile tu kiburi ndio inaonekana mingi from our leaders. And that's why so many people are mad, So what we want and what we call out for is accountability, transparency. And we can only do that by putting everything to the limelight. By highlighting these stories, by telling these stories, and informing Kenyans of what was promised, what has been kept, and what is pending. But they don't want that. We can't just be singing praise to the government, for the government. We are not the government spokesperson. Media is not here to speak for the government, and we are not here to go to bed with the government. We are here to speak for the people, and that's what we'll keep doing.
All right. Sam, I'll be coming to you in just a while because the chants of the president must go are still on a year later since the last year's protest. But now, as you can see, they're live on the screens fast. That is Thika Road. Of course, the police are trying to contain the protesters from making their way through CBD. They've come all the way from Githurai. We saw that possession. They came through TRM. They came all the way. And those are just live pictures there. Like I said, the police are trying to contain protesters from making their way to CBD to come and join the rest. But now I'm going to come back to CBD, and our reporter Noah Kipkemboy is there. Noah, good afternoon. The last time I spoke to Fred Kagonya, he was telling us that things aren't looking really pretty at CBD. Has anything new transpired?
Well, very good afternoon to you, Zubaida. We are on Kenyatta Avenue, and right now, as you can see from those pictures, these are some of the interventions that we're seeing from the medical world. Somebody has just been hurt. We are having the first responders on scene, and it's trying to get close. There's a gentleman who's already speaking on phone. I think his leg has really been injured, so they're getting a stretcher for him so that he can be loaded onto the ambulance. Better part of the day, we have seen actually the back and forth between the protesters and the police. Lots of tear gas here at the CBD. When you look at the Kenyatta Avenue, vandalized, but here we see this young man being loaded onto the ambulance. He's been hurt, but I think he was trying to contact his family or friends. In this situation, you should always have a phone and notify people when something happens to you. So this is the case. And even there's a gentleman here, he's saying that somebody has been hurt. And a lot of respondents, actually, when somebody is hurt, Zubaida, they're taken to Jamia Mosque, where we have an intervention medical team that is helping with that. But for now, this is what is happening. Other than that, we have boda guys who are really helping, which is a good thing. And I don't know if volunteers, habari mkubwa. Naona watu wa bodaboda mnasaidia sana. Umebeba watu wangapi na unawapeleka wapi, especially wale wenye wameumia?
Wale wameumia tu ni kuwasaidia hapa Jamia Mosque. Yeah, wameumia sana kwa kweli bro.
Umebeba watu kutoka wapi wewe?
Pale Konange Street ndei. Ya nimebeba nikawapeleka Jamia Mosque pale itoje pale chini karibu na Moi Avenue hapo. Watu ni wengi wameumia bro kweli, yeah.
Ulikuwa unaangalia what kind of injuries wamepata, ni kugongwa, what exactly?
Kupigwa na polisi na rungu, wengine wanagongwa tear gas, wengine rubber bullet, wengine tear gas bro. So that's why wameumia kweli, yeah. Yeah. This one. Yeah.
Na wenye wanashikilia wale wenye wameumia pia ni volunteers to protesters kama wengine. Saizi nasikia mnaendea mwingine. Umetumwa wapi, unamwendea wapi?
Tunaenda kwa hapa, tunapeleka pale Jamia Mosque. Okay. Yeah.
Sawa. Asante sana. Sawa, endea huyo mwenye ameumia saizi. So Zubaida, this is the case here, but essentially what was happening is that the protesters were coming from that end. Okay? And sort of the barrier was Kenyatta Avenue. Now, the other side, when you go the other end, is towards Parliament. And that is what the police are preventing, making sure that there's nobody approaching the Parliament way. So they've been lobbing tear gas. So now operations are on the flip side. In fact, my cameraman Kibet, if you can just show that end, you can see that far end, just a tear gas has been thrown right away that end, and you can see some bodabodas going down that direction. And when you look upwards at the GPO roundabout, also initially there was some activities there. Some protesters were coming down that route. But it's quite unfortunate seeing this back and forth, Zubeida. And also, even as we are live on the ground, of course, checking online, we've seen also the communication by the Communications Authority of Kenya saying that banning all live broadcasts, which is a discourse that I believe you are having in regards to media freedom and the role it plays not only in national cohesion, but also in cases where we are not in agreement, where there is constitutional conversation and rights to protest. And where is the balance in such situations right now? But that is the situation right now here at the CBD, Zubeida. We see also there is another young man here. Already the other one was taken already. There's another young man here who is receiving some help, intervention. Let me see what exactly is going on. It seems he's been hit. Yes. Mkubwa ni aje? Nini li happen?
Niyo design tuko at least tuna protest hiyo peacefully, like hiyo saa ile time tunaenda kidogo tu. Then we all of a sudden